Hi folks, I'm a Renaissance Mama and today I'm going to be hanging a shelf in my bathroom. So I'm going to show you how. It's really easy. I have this beautiful orchid that was given to me by a former student and I'd like to hang it or like to put it somewhere in my bathroom because it loves the humidity and the light in the bathroom. But right now I just have it sitting on my toilet tank and I'm really concerned that it's going to fall off, and it's such a beautiful plant. I don't want that to happen, so I just set it down on the floor. So today, to hang a shelf, what you're going to need is a drill or a power screwdriver with a drill attachment. I'm using a 1/4-inch drill. I used a 3/32 drill to pre-drill holes in my wood. You will want a measuring tape. You'll want a pencil, a level of some sort, and you will want, you could use a stud finder or a magnet works just as well. So either that or a magnet. I also have screwdriver attachments for my drill once I have my holes ready to go. So I'm going to use 2 brackets that I bought at Lowe's, and they have a long side and a short side, and I have a very narrow shelf. It's 2 feet by 7 1/4 inches. So I've already pre-drilled holes about 3.5 inches in on each side with the 3/32 drill bit. So you want to measure your space. I want this to be centered on the section of the wall, and I don't want it near my electrical outlet. In fact, I'm going to unplug that. So you want it centered on the wall. So I measured the length of the space, and I know my board is 2 feet, and my space is actually 36 inches, which is perfect. So I just came in 6 inches on either side, and the shelf should hang right in the center once I get it mounted. So once I decided where I was putting my shelf, I had to measure out where the brackets are going to go. So as I said, I put the holes 3.5 inches in on the board. So when I measured my wall space, I moved another 3.5 inches in. I'm going to use the long side on the wall, and the short side will hold the board, because otherwise it would stick out, and that's not very attractive. So I'm using a pencil to mark my spots. I already did my measuring. Wherever you're hanging your shelf, whatever size shelf, you're going to have to do a little bit of math. Now, I know that I can do this because I took down all the cabinets in my kitchen and hung shelves, and all of my dishes have not fallen to the floor, and I have a lot of dishes. Today I'm using the Toggler concrete and drywall screws and anchors. I found that these hold very, very well. As I said, I hung all my kitchen shelves, and I'll show you in another episode of Renaissance Mama. But these are really great when you can't tie into a stud. If you can tie into a stud with your stud finder, if your stud finder lines up in the place you want it, it's great. But if it doesn't, like in my house, I don't have a stud right there, right in the middle, and that is not where I want it. So I use the wall anchors, and these are really great. And these hold up to 69 pounds. And obviously my plant is not going to weigh 69 pounds, but they have other weights as well. So they have, I think it goes up to 85 pounds. I use the 69-pound ones for my kitchen shelves, and I use the 69-pound ones for my kitchen shelves, and they work just fine. So this is a small shelf, so I'm not using a bracket in the center. If it is a long shelf, you may want to put 1 or 2 brackets in the center, especially if you're putting a lot of weight on the shelf. In my kitchen shelves, I have 4-foot shelves and 4 brackets each, 1 on each end, 2 in the center. Because I don't want my dishes and bowls and appliances to come crashing to the ground. So the first thing we're going to do is after you've measured, you're going to drill your holes, and you want it about 1 3/4, 1.5 inch deep. And there are instructions on the back of the toddler package. I pulled a little insulation out, that's okay. And just apply a little pressure, you get a nice hole in there, because you're going to have to push those anchors in, so you need to make sure your hole is deep enough. Okay, so I have 4 holes on my wall. Now I'm going to change my drill bit, so I'm unscrewing that attachment, and I'm going to put in my screwdriver attachment. And I need 4 anchors and 4 screws. And the anchor just looks like this, little white T-shaped, and it's got a channel, and as the screw goes in, it opens up. So behind the wall, it will open up so that it doesn't fall out. If you're just using a regular screw, after so many times of maybe putting something up or down, jiggling it a little bit, the screw will come loose from the wall and it'll fall down. And heaven forbid that happens while someone's sitting on the toilet. I'm just going to push these in. If it's tight, you can tap it with a hammer very lightly. You don't want to bend your anchor, because if you bend the anchor, then you got to start with a new anchor. Believe me, I have used a few extra anchors in my day. Okay. All right, I've got 4 in. Good. All right. I have some smaller screws that I'll use to connect the board to the brackets, but these use really long screws. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the top one. If you see that there's a wider hole and then a narrow space, that's so you can put this one in first through the hole, and then it slides up so it holds it in place. So I'm going to put the top one in first, and then I'll do the bottom ones last, and I don't tighten it all up until I've checked the shelf to make sure that it's level, because I can adjust it a little bit. And it may be easier if you turn your bracket sideways. So you get a better angle. I need to change my bit. This bit's too small for that screw, so I'm just going to put a larger screwdriver bit. I'm using a Phillips head screwdriver bit. The Phillips head is the cross one, not the flat one. But these screws do have a flat head. I don't typically like a flathead attachment or a flathead screw. I don't feel the bit bites it well enough. So I put it in there loose. It's wiggly. I don't want to tighten it up until I have both on, and then I can check to see the level of my shelf. Once I know that's level, I'm not going to screw the shelf on until I tighten these up, but once I know it's level, I can put them in the right places. So I'm going to hang the next one. Again, I'm using the long side. The short side will be for my shelf itself. And this doesn't take too long. It's pretty easy. I bought the shelf pre-cut, again from Lowe's, and it is oak wood, so it's really a nice hardwood. I don't think I'm going to paint it, but I might live with it for a while and decide later. Okay, so this is loose too. All right, so now I line my shelf up as if all the screws are in there nice and tight. Okay, so that one's got to go up a little bit, I think. Let's just see my level. That looks pretty good. Yeah, we've got to go up a little bit. All right, so I'm going to take the shelf down while I'm holding this bracket, because this bracket I have to make sure that I get it right. I'm going to put that right in there. Small bursts with your drill tend to work a little bit better and strip the head of your screw less. Now that my bottom one is in, the top one is going to be tougher to tighten. You could use a regular screw. I have a longer bit here, so I'm just using that to tighten it up. I don't want it wobbly. The whole point is to keep the plant from falling off. All right, so now we're going to do this one. So this one was fine, so I'm going to tighten the top one first. I don't need to worry about it too much. It doesn't want to go anymore. Let me see if I can tighten it by hand. The downside of brackets like this is, even though they're cute, it's tough sometimes to get your screwdriver or drill bit in that tight space. All right, that's ready to go. All right, last screw in to my anchor. Very good. All right, now I'm using some smaller screws through the bracket into the board. And as I said, I pre-drilled the holes in my board because it is harder when you're drilling up to really get leverage. So if you have a head start, that is helpful. Okay. Well, if you've heard the saying, measure twice, cut once, it also works for drilling. I should have measured it twice. It's not lining up perfectly. That's okay. I can fix it. And I can flip the board so nobody sees the pre-drilled holes. I'm just going to take the sticker off of this one, this side, and I want to measure in between. So I've got 16, just about 16 inches. So that means I need 8, 4 on each side. Oh, it's 3.5. No, it's 4.5. Let's pull it down a little bit. Smidge more. Too much. 4. Okay. So I'm going to mark these holes and try again. The worst part would be if I tried to put it in without the pre-drilled holes, is my screws would be stripped and they'd be sticking out a little bit. So I'm going to switch out my drill bit again and try that 3/32 bit, which is teeny. I want it just a little bit smaller than the screw itself, than the width of the screw, the diameter of the screw, just so it bites into the wood. If you make the hole too big, the screw is not going to grab it, and it's not going to do any good. So I'm going to tilt this down. I'm working right on the toilet. So I'm going to set my drill down forward. Go ahead and drill it down. And I'm not going all the way through the board. Just enough to get that screw started. All right. Back to the screwdriver bit. The nice thing about having the stud buddy around is that nothing's rolling off the toilet because it's all getting stuck to the stud buddy, the screws, the drill bits, everything. All right, so I have my small screws, I have my measurements. Let's flip it around. There we go. That's better. All right. Since I'm not putting anything heavy on this one, I'm not super worried about the back, but the back one is going to be harder to get in, so I'm going to try that one first. Just because of the angle of the bracket doesn't really. Oh. Well, it's a good thing I got an extra screw. I'm pressing down on the board. There we go. Pressing down on the board as I push up on my drill. Now I'll do the front one. Okay. On the other side. Last one. There we go. All right. How's that? Pretty good. Now, just need to put our pretty, ooh, it's tall. It's tall. The flower's almost touching the ceiling. But I won't knock it off. So I hope this makes you feel courageous enough to try putting up a shelf in your own home. Practice makes perfect. Maybe start in the basement, not where the public goes. So that way you can not worry about too many holes in the wall or something being a little crooked. It takes some practice. Believe me, the first shelf I hung, not so great. The more I do it, the better I get. Practice makes perfect. Bye, folks.